Today's date is December 14th, 1995. The survivor is Edith Stirk Kremer. The interviewer is Jeff Lewis. The interview will take place in Camarillo, California, in the United States. This interview will be conducted in English. This is tape 1 of an interview with Edith Kremer. Today's date is December 14th, 1995. We're in Camarillo, California. My name is Jeff Lewis. Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you please tell me your name?
Edith Stirk Kremer.
And where were you born?
In Hungary, a small town called Polgár.
When were you born?
In July 13, 1927.
How old are you today?
68.
Thank you. Could you tell me, Edith, a little bit about your family? Your mother, your father?
Yes, my mother and father, they were born in the same town. Actually, my father wasn't, but when he married, he moved there. And I had 2 brothers and a sister.
Could you tell me everybody's name, please?
The older brother name was Sándor, and the younger Paul, and my sister's name was Eva. And they were 12 and 9. The twins were 9.
Who were the twins?
Eva and Paul.
And what was your mother's name?
My mother's name was Margit, and my father's name was Herman.
Tell me what your father did for a living.
He had a grocery store. Actually, we had 2 of them, and my mother took care of one, and my father ran the other one. And everything was going fine till 1940. My father was taken into a labor camp in Hungary.
Before we get to that point,
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the house in which you lived, or the apartment.
It was a small house, and everything was wonderful. I had a good childhood. I went to a Hebrew public school till I was 10 years old, and then I went for a higher, like junior high, something like that. And for 4 years I went to that school. And after that, it started, it wasn't so good for the Jews.
Well, did you live in a Jewish neighborhood?
Yeah, well, it was a lot of Jewish people, but mostly Gentiles.
How big a community was Polgár?
It was about 15,000 people, and I imagine around 5,000 Jews.
And what did you and your friends do for fun when you were a little girl?
Well, not much in a small town. You know, we had a movie theater, so maybe once a week on a Sunday we went to see a show. And we got together with friends in somebody's home, and that's how we entertained ourselves.
Tell me a little bit about your religious background.
We were Orthodox, but modern Orthodox, not ultra. And my grandmother, she wore a sheitel, and my grandfather had a beard. They were more religious than we were already.
Do you remember the holidays in your home? Like
oh yeah,
Passover
it was beautiful. The Passover and the Sukkot. We fixed up the home with flowers and all kinds of plants, and it was wonderful. We got together with cousins, and it was lovely.
Would you help your mother with?
Oh yeah, I had to. I had to help a lot because with the 4 children and the business to run, she couldn't do it alone. She had somebody helping her, a girl, but everybody had their chores.
What were your chores?
I had to wash dishes, bring in wood. We had wood burning stoves, And when she baked, I had to help her. In between schools, I had to deliver things to my father, and every afternoon bring him his food, you know, his dinner. And whatever, I used to even bathe my little brother and sister, get them ready for bed. Yeah, I helped out a lot.
Were most of your friends Jewish at this time?
Yeah, I had a few who weren't, but my best friends were Jewish girls.
Do you ever remember anti-Semitism
Oh,
as a child?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about it.
When we were coming home from school, they were waiting for us with rocks, and they were throwing at us. And my mother was lighting candle Friday night, and I remember when a big rock came through the window. And I was a young girl that time, and it was happening already. Even in the neighborhood where we lived, and I used to play with some girls, Gentile, and even they were singing songs about against Jews, you know, and in front of me. And
what
they
kind of
made
songs?
I think that time already Hitler. We knew about Hitler, but it didn't touch us, you know. And there were songs about Hitler, and there was this same like Hitler in Hungary. His name was Szálasi. And there were songs that let's kill all the Jews, and it used to hurt me, you know, terribly. Sure, since, you know, it was going on all the time.
Do you remember the songs in your head?
It was something, let live Hitler and Szálasi, and let's kill the Jews. It was about something like that.
Where did the children learn these songs?
From the parents, probably. Hungary was a very anti-Semitic place. The best ones that we thought that they are good, they were they weren't good. They hated us.
And did your parents ever talk to you about being Jewish versus not Jewish?
No, not really. They just said that you be proud of to be a Jew and do the best, and they looked away. They didn't want to, you know, speak up or anything. Everybody just tried to get along with them. That's how it was.
What happened the night that they threw a rock through your window on Shabbos? Did your mother or father say or do anything?
My father wasn't there already. He was in labor camp. And nothing. You couldn't do nothing. There was a priest in town, and he was constantly preaching about the Christ killers, the Jews, and every time they came out of church, then they did things like that, because he made them, you know, feel that everything is fine as long as, you know, you give it to them. The Jews don't deserve to live. He was a terrible person.
Tell me about your synagogue where you went.
Well, you know, being we were Orthodox, women mostly went only on high holidays. But as kids, we used to go, you know, and hang around with my father. He went every Friday night, and as a matter of fact, not just Shabbos, but in the morning before he went into the store, he went to the synagogue, and then at night, twice a day, they used to go.
Do you remember the rabbi's name in your community?
Yeah, his name was Lemberger. I don't remember his first name, but I liked him a lot. He was a very nice man with long white beard, and he was nice to us kids. Yeah, we used to go when we went to the shoichet. You know what is a shoichet? You don't know. He took a chicken or a goose or a duck, and he killed them, you know. And in case my mother suspected maybe it's not kosher, we had to go and a certain, like the intestine or something had to be taken to the rabbi to examine it and tell us if it's kosher or if it's treifa. So I used to go there. He gave us a candy or something. He was always nice. I remember as a child.
Tell me a little bit about your parents and their business. Was the grocery business?
Yes, a grocery and more like a general store. It had a lot of other things there too. And we had a good life. Those days we were considered well off, And then it started happening. They didn't allow Jewish stores to carry everything, just certain things, so the customers left us. Even though they were so good, my parents were very good to them. They gave it credit, and the big stores didn't do that, but still, we were Jews, and little by little they all left us. So it was very hard, and especially after my father was taken away in the labor camp, then he wasn't there to help us. My mother had to take care of us kids, and eventually she closed up the store because she couldn't make it.
Were most of your clients Jewish or Gentile?
No, it was mostly Gentiles because the Jews were all in business, Mostly every store was Jewish, but there was a few, like here you would say a supermarket. They had one big store, and that was Gentile. So they started going there.
Tell me, you've mentioned your father was taken away to a labor camp
Yes.
several times. Do you remember that day?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me.
I was 13 years old, and he got the notice that he has to report, and it was a few towns away somewhere he had to go, so we used to go visit him. He was there maybe 6 weeks, not longer, and then he was taken to Russia. And after that, we never heard from him, never, not even a postcard. And years later, we got a letter telling us that he disappeared near Kiev. And that's it. We never knew what happened to him, but he probably died. He must have. Yeah, that was in 1940.
And how did your life change when your father left? What responsibilities were added, or?
It changed a lot. We were struggling day by day, and my mother she used to raise goose, about 100 of them, and they force-fed them, and then they took it to the circuit, or he came over to the house, and we cleaned it and went into another town with a bus, carrying that and selling it, in the big city. And that's how we made the living. My mother did. And then I went up to Budapest. I think that I was about 14 years old.
So what year would that have been?
It was 41.
When the war started, which was a few years earlier, how did you come to think of that? In other words, how did you come to learn of that? And
from the newspapers. I remember we were reading it, but that time we didn't know what was happening, In Russia, Poland, the Jews already. Hungary was the very last. So we really didn't know much about it, but in the newspapers we were reading about it. And when I went up there, I lived with my mother's sister and her husband and another aunt, two aunts. We lived in one apartment, and I went to work.
What were the aunts' names and the uncle's names?
I had an aunt called Regine, and another one Olga, and my uncle's wife was Ila, and my uncle's name was Deja. And we all lived together, and when I worked, I gave part of my salary to them, you know, for room and board, and most of it I sent to my mother because she needed it. And I couldn't even, when I was saving for a dress, I couldn't even afford that because the prices, the inflation was so bad that they were going up and up. And I had very little money. I had to put away every week a little bit, and by the time I had enough, the prices were up double. So it wasn't very easy.
What kind of work did you do in Budapest?
I worked in a dress shop. I was doing finishing jackets and coats, stuff like that.
How many hours a day would you work?
From 9 to 5.
And tell me about your living conditions with your aunt and uncle. Was it a house? Was it an apartment?
It was an apartment. The toilet, excuse me, was outside. We had to go out. We didn't have a bathroom. They had water, you know, indoor. The water was, but not the bathrooms. And that's how we lived together. I in one room with my two aunts. And my uncle and his wife and two children lived in the other room.
And did you know many Jewish people up there? Was there a Jewish community you participated
Oh,
in?
yes, it was, you would call it a ghetto. It was a Jewish neighborhood.
How big of a ghetto was it?
Well, Budapest is big. The ghetto, it was, I couldn't say how big, but it was pretty big.
Were there walls to the ghetto?
No, that time it wasn't ghetto. We called it a ghetto. There was no walls. And later on, they made Jewish buildings. And people who didn't, even though we called it a ghetto because it was all Jews, we had to move out and move in wherever they put out the, you know, the Jewish star in front of the buildings. And those were Jewish homes, and we had to move into those apartments.
And what year was that?
As a matter of fact, they put in, that was already like 43, just before we were taken away. And they put in a few families into those small apartments. We couldn't just stay there. We had to have another family moving in. And this was going on till we were already taken.
Well, what was your food condition? What kind of food were you eating, and were you able to acquire food when you were?
Well, those days, yeah, we had, but it was hard already. We had to go with the rationing, you know, with the every week or whatever they gave us. I don't remember exactly, like, you know.
Ration?
And they allowed so much, whatever you went to the bakery and you stand in line, and many times it happened by the time we got to the window, they ran out of bread, so we didn't get it. But those days were good days yet. Afterwards it came the bad days. And even the wood that we used for heat or cooking, that was rationed. And for that too we had to stand in line.
And who received the ration coupons?
The head of the family, I think. You know, you had to go to an office and they gave it to you. And that's how we lived. It wasn't so terrible, but then when had to go into the labor camp, me too, and my aunt. And I was with one aunt, this Olga. And we were taken to a place where it was maybe a few thousand people. And terrible condition. No bathroom facility, nothing, no drinking water, and we stayed there for a few days. It was very bad, no food. And then they let us go home. We thought that's it. But then we got the notice that everybody has to report. And this time it was real. You could take a few things with you, but mostly just shoes and a coat, or that's all. And we stayed in Hungary, but it was mostly my age or older girls. The oldest maybe 40. My aunt was about 40, and she was with me. And those days, if you could take a chance and run away. And I wanted to, but she was afraid. She was so afraid that we're going to get killed, because even in Hungary, they were like Nazis. They wear the crosses, those red, and they were the one who were taking us.
What, you just said red crosses.
It's
that
not.
were red?
They called it red. I forgot already how they called themselves. They were like Nazis. The Hungarian young men, and they were taking us from town to town, and we were digging ditches, and we always had to carry a spade, on our shoulder, and walked in the rain, and it was misery. And then actually we walked to the border of Germany.
Well, before we get to the border of Germany,
Yeah.
What kind of contact did you have with your family at this time? With your
My
mother
family
and-
was taken before me already. There was no contact. We knew that they weren't there anymore, and we heard that they all had to. It was like Passover that time in '44. I think it was in March or early April. And the last day of Passover, they closed them up in their homes, and there was a Hungarian soldier standing in front of the door and wouldn't let them go out. They didn't have no bread, nothing, because of Passover, And the worst part of it was that these guys that they were guarding them, they were our neighbors who used to come, and they worked. They made money over there in the store, and they got so nasty. They wouldn't let them go out, and they were taking whatever they had, jewelry and stuff. And somebody told me after the war that my little sister was standing there, and she had earrings in her ear, and he said, "Take it out, you Jew. If you don't, then I tear your ears out with the earring." And that's how it was. And then they took them to the railway, to the train station, and to a bigger city. And all the Jews they accumulated them, and they were there for about a week or 2 weeks, and then they took them to Auschwitz.
And how did you come to learn all of this?
We didn't know for sure, but it was rumors, that I knew that they were taken into that other town, because I wrote to a Gentile neighbor, and I said, "I don't know what's happening with my mother and my brothers and sister." And she wrote me back that, "Didn't you know all the Jews were taken away?"
And that's where you learned the story of your little sister and the earrings?
Yes.
Getting back to your story, what was when did you first see your first Nazi? When did you realize that they were coming
We
into...
seen in Budapest. When we went out in the street, we used to say goodbye to each other. I went to work, and we never knew if we're going to come back or we're going to be shot on the street, because they used to do that.
Did you see that?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Can you describe one of those incidents?
I knew this girl, a young girl, and they asked her for the paper to, to identify herself or something, and she was looking for it and not fast enough, so he went and he shot her. And then I knew a lot of other people that they were taken to the Danube, in Budapest, and they just shot them all, the whole buildings. They asked them to leave, and they, without any reason, and they lined them up and they shot them all.
And this you saw too?
No, I didn't. No.
You saw the incident with the young woman, though?
Yes, yeah. They did such a horrible things that it just terrible.
And did the Hungarians change when the Nazis came? Were they different? Were they more overt? Were they?
The Hungary, these were like I forgot already. They called them in Hungarian nyilas. They were the same as a Nazi. They belonged to party, and they were just like, they were worse than the Germans. They were terrible.
Who had control of the ghetto where you lived? The Hungarians?
Every house had to have they had somebody who was the head of the, responsible for whatever. You couldn't go outside. You had to go certain hours. You could go out. So it came to a point that we couldn't go to work either. So I used to bring home work. I did it at home, and there was a woman there who was married to a Jew, and he was taken away too, but she was so good to us. She used to go out and do the shopping for us, and every Jew who lived in there, mostly Jewish people lived there. She used to bring in food, shopped for us, or whatever had to be done, she used to do it for us.
Do you remember her name?
In my building, I think her name was Deutsch. Her husband's name was Deutsch. I don't remember her name, but she was wonderful.
Was she in danger for doing this?
No, I don't think she was in danger. She was a Gentile person. They didn't. If they would find out that she's hiding somebody or something, but she couldn't do nothing for her own husband either. He was taken. And they had a lot of these, you heard about Wallenberg. We had those buildings. If somebody could get in there, then they were safe. And I had 2 cousins who were saved because of that building. Yeah. As a matter of fact, my husband, Joe, he had the paper for me, and he was sending it, and whenever he tried somebody to deliver it to me, we were always somewhere else, because we kept going every day, so I could have been safe too.
Let's change tapes and we'll continue with the story.
Okay.
Thank you. First, but that was not to be.
Yes. It was, I was too much ahead of him, he was sending it after me, but we kept going and going all over in Hungary, walking, and that's how it happened. I couldn't, get it.
And when you were walking, is this now, are we caught up to when you were doing the labor?
Yes, yeah, we were walking, and it was raining, and then it was November, I think it was around November or even earlier. It started snowing. We slept outside on the ice, we didn't go indoors, just outside. A lot of people, when they never woke up. They died. They froze.
How many people were on this work group?
It was about 500. And then they took us to, finally we got to the border. I don't know, you want the name? Anyu SHOA it was called in Hungarian. And it was right on the border of Austria. So they put us into the wagons, the cattle cars, and we were going for a few days, and all of a sudden the train turned around. We felt that we are going back, and everybody was happy. They changed their mind. They're not taking us. But it wasn't so. They brought us back to a Hungarian-Austrian border town called Bozsók. That was the name of the place. And then they herded us into a abandoned mill. And same thing happened over there, that we did labor. We went out every morning and we worked in the fields, or we dug ditches, you know. And it was a little bit better because we were indoors, so just lying on the floor, but we got a little bit more food, and it wasn't so terrible.
What was your clothing?
That time I had my own, whatever. I took a couple of clothes, and there was no way to wash ourselves or anything, and it was like a very small river right outside, and used to break the ice and go and wash in that. But no matter what we did, it started already. We got the lice in our heads and hair, and even in our clothes. And we had already over there the Wehrmacht, you know. And we went out in the morning. We were freezing to death. It was so cold. And some of them were very nice. They gave us their gloves to have our hands warm up. I never forget. You know, for a while, and we took turns. And a lot of my friends that I knew from Budapest, they died. Some survived. And they asked the sick people should come aside, and they're going to take them to hospitals, but it was not a hospital. They all got killed. They shot them or they poisoned them. And we were there for a while, and then it was December, I think.
Of what year?
In 44. And we got into, again, into the, I think it's called cattle car, and closed us up, a lot of women, and no water, no food, nothing for 5 days. And we were sitting together like, there was no space even just to move your feet. It was terrible. And after I think it was 5 days, they asked somebody to get off from the train when it stopped at the station. I never forget, it was called Magdeburg in Germany. And why I remember so well, because me and another girl, we could do it. We got off from most of them, they were in terrible condition. You know, you could imagine everything, the sickness, no bathroom, everybody was using whatever over there. And we got off and we went to this train station with 2 pails to bring the water. But the first thing we did, we went over to the faucet and we put our mouth to it, and we couldn't get enough water. We were drinking and drinking and drinking, and finally we had enough, and then we brought it to the others, and it was fighting. Everybody wanted more. You know, it was terrible. And this was already, I left out something very important. Before that, before we got the water, they gave us salty herring, full of salt. It was cooked in water, but it just like swallowing salt, and everybody got sick. And then we got the water finally. So that's how it was till we got to Germany. And we used to try to ask for water. The Germans, they were standing by the station there, and we had one little bottle, an empty. Somebody brought up a bottle to the train, and it was just enough space that we could slip it through with a belt or something outside. And we asked, bitte schön ein bisschen Wasser. Please give me a little water. Some of them did, you know, the Germans, and they sent it back. And then it started the fight, because we were fighting for that drop of, because everybody took one drop and somebody took 2 swallows instead of 1. Then it was a fight. And finally we arrived. And when we got off from the, we had our own clothes yet, whatever we had, and a shoe. And we had to strip off naked.
Now, where did you arrive?
In Bergen-Belsen. We had to take off our naked. And as we walked by, we had to walk a while, and they're going to process us or take our name. And they had something in their hand, and they hit us on the backside. And the Germans. And then they didn't give us the tattoo, the numbers, but we each had a number. They kept, you know, books, because after the war I find my number, my name and number over there. Anyway, they did that, and then we had to leave our clothes, our shoes in one pile, and go to another pile, and they handed over a dress. My dress would have been good for a 9-year-old. I was 17 years old. A little party dress in the middle of winter. And no other clothes, no underwear, no nothing. They gave us one of those striped robes. And that's how we stayed all through. At least we had our shoes, but that was stolen too from a lot of people, because we had to watch it, because they were stealing, you know, among us. Somebody seen better shoes or warmer or something than they. So we went into this barrack that about 1,000 women. And we sat down, everybody sat down one line by the wall, and the other one was facing them. So the one who was sitting by the wall, at least you had something for your back. But the others, you know, you were sitting there all day like that. And if you had to go to the bathroom, then that was, sometimes they let us go outside. It was like a forest, full of pine trees, snow, very high, you know, very, very cold. And those who could, they tried to go outside. But those who couldn't, they just, where they were sitting, they did it right then and there. There was no way they could go out. And if, like me, I felt pretty strong those days, and I wouldn't, I had to go outside, so they beat us up because of that. But as far as food, going back to that, There was no food. In the morning we got like a little weak black coffee. It was mostly water. And then daytime we got turnips, was cooked in water, so a little bit, but that wasn't enough either, and a tiny slice of bread. And at night again the black coffee. And for this they asked if somebody wants to go and deliver the food. We had to go somewhere, and I volunteered. By then my aunt, who was with me, she was getting very, very sick. It looked like she's never going to make it. And we got an extra little, that turnip or a piece of bread, and I gave it to her that she should survive. And the place where we went to pick the food up, bodies like 2 stories high, and they were already like skeletons, on top of each other. And we had to pass by there, and sometimes we recognized people that we were with, they were with us, and it was a horrible thing. And they filled with this vegetable. So if somebody tried to steal one, they killed them right then and there, for that one little, turnip. So I did this while we were there, and early in the morning they started hollering "Tsilapel," counting heads or whatever, counting, So we had to line up, and people were falling, and some of them praying, some of them cursing, and they froze, some froze right then and there. For about an hour and a half, we were standing out there without clothes, and this was going on morning and at night. And when we went into the barrack, we were everybody was trying to stretch out a little bit or something, and there was no space, nothing. And they try to take each other's place, and if somebody died, then they said, "Thank God," we became like animals. We said, "Thank God, there's another inch, that we have a little bit more space left." And that's how we stayed, and months went by, and in the beginning I remember every night I used to say the prayer that I used to do at home in the nighttime, and then I said, "There's no God. How can it be? We knew that they killed my whole family, everybody's gone, and look how we live here, how we were starving, and we used to go out, and when we had a chance to go outside, we were eating the leaves to fill our stomach. And the stench, it was enough to knock you out, the smell was unbearable. Anyway, we were staying like that, and many times in the middle of the night they said, "Out, everybody." They took us. It was we thought it's the crematorium, and we went in, and everybody was screaming. That's it, it was complete darkness, and they started letting like shower heads was all over the place, and it was coming down the boiling water on us. We were naked and we were burning, and we were praying that we should die. And a while later, ice water was coming, and they kept doing this back and forth, the ice and the hot water. And then they decided they send us back. They did this about at least 5, 6 times while I was there. We never know this is going to be the real thing. This time we're going to die. But we didn't. And little by little, that 1,000 that I said that we started out with, very few left. Very few. Most of them died. They had latrines. I don't know if you know what that means, you know. Men, women, they used to, we didn't even know which one is the man or women. We was sitting there. And many times this was a sport for them, the Nazis. They just took somebody and threw them right into the, especially young girls. They got a kick out of it. They threw them right into the latrine. And so that's how we existed.
Did they ever throw you into the latrine?
No, but I seen somebody who was. And she became afterwards like crazy. She just lost her mind after that. And that's how it was. And I'm thinking if I left out probably things that very important. We stayed there till we got liberated.
Before we get to the liberation, was there warmth in the barracks when you were all
No.
together through body warmth?
No. And there was no togetherness or whatever. Everybody was looking out for themselves. You know, you could have been good friends or whatever, but the typhus, everybody, you know, most everybody had typhus, and you became like have an I don't care attitude. We didn't care already if we live or die or whatever gonna happen. And as far as the if somebody died, it wasn't a big thing. I seen 2 women who were friends from home, and they were sitting, and the same time they both died. At the same time, their head was like in each other's shoulder. That's how it was.
And then how were those bodies removed from the barracks?
They, you know, the other inmates, whoever, you know, had to, and what I mentioned over there where we went for the food, they just piled them up. And there was some man in the, you know, in the other camp. The man was staying in different camp. They had to dig ditches, and they put in 1,000 at a time. And it was just terrible. Everybody was a skeleton, unless, you know, like if you are young. I was only 17 years old. I wasn't so bad. I was skinny, but not so bad. And it was just unbearable. We were full of lice. Our whole body, from the hair down to everything. It was just horrible. And that's how, but somehow we got used to it already, that we didn't itch. we were used to the bugs. And I used to imagine, you know, that I started to get a little bit, I was hallucinating. And I was sitting there, and I said, right outside there's an ocean, and I could hear the water. I was thirsty all the time. We didn't have water. And I said, I could hear the water, and if I could just get out, I would be all right. It was all, later on we find out that they were poisoning us. In the bread they were putting in arson, but very little, that they wanted to do it. As a matter of fact, when we got liberated, by then they were figuring it wouldn't take long and we all die, whoever survived. because this we find out. They find the bread that they were giving us, and it was poison in it. So this was also by chance that we survived. Yeah. And April 15, the English soldiers, they came in, and they were wonderful to us. We were running out in the, whoever could walk, we all made an effort. And they were throwing down candy bars, and people thought that the best thing is to go and get those turnips. They were hungry, and they were running now. There were no shooting or anything. And
do you remember the Nazis leaving?
No. No, the only thing I remember afterwards, when we were already deliberated, that they were going with their hands up. You know, some of them, that they were prisoners. But I don't remember them leaving. All of a sudden we just saw the tanks, you know, we couldn't even believe that they were our liberators. And they came in, and they were unbelievable. You know, these filthy women with the lice, with everything. They came and they were lifting them up and taking us with big trucks to get cleaned up. And the joint, the ladies from the joint, they gave us a blanket and soap, toothbrush. We didn't have for a whole year already, almost, I don't know, a long time. And clean dress, and we were cleaned up, and then they took us to the where the German soldiers, they were in a clean place, you know, barracks, and they gave us, so we were like 4 or 5 girls to a room, so it was much better. Yeah. And I stayed there for a while, and like I said, my aunt, she almost died. She was in a hospital, and we used to go and pick berries and stuff, and because even then the food wasn't too much. But going back, that I knew I forgot that when we were liberated, not I had, I forgot from one minute to the next. Yeah, they gave us food, that's what I wanted to say. They gave us some kind of a food, like peas, cooked peas, and we ate like horses, you know, we were so hungry, and we got sick. A lot of people died because of this, so they had to watch. That's why we didn't have too much food. They gave us, you know, little by little. And then I got a job in the kitchen, and that way I got a little extra.
This is still at Bergen-Belsen?
Still at Bergen-Belsen, and I got a little extra food, and my aunt got, you know, better. She was much better because she ate already. She was stronger, and she came out of the hospital. I used to bring her the food, and we stayed there till we were liberated the 15th of April, and we stayed there till the end of October. There was no way that we could go back, and all the time I worked.
Before you mentioned some acts of kindness from some of the guards, excuse me, and soldiers. Before you got to Bergen-Belsen,
Yes.
Was there ever any kindness shown to you at Bergen-Belsen that you remember?
Never. Never. No. Nothing. Over there, I think the Wehrmacht wasn't so bad as the Germans. You know, they were a little bit more compassionate. They had more compassion for us.
And do you ever remember, excuse me, a moment of hope in the camp that helped you get
Never,
through?
never. I was sure we're going to die. I was sure.
Where did you find your strength to go to the next day? Did you, if
You go to the night. There was nothing else you can do. You were like a machine. You were. There was nothing. What can we do? We couldn't do anything. You had to. And one time they asked if somebody wants to work. So that could have backfired too, because many times that's, they tricked us. But we had a chance to go into a factory, a few girls, young girls. And that would have been much better if we could have stayed, but a week later they didn't take us anymore. So we went along as every day, and there was no hope, nothing. We were sure that we all gonna die. As a matter of fact, we were begging God to take us. We wanted to put an end to the misery. Yeah. So anyway, when we were free, and it was already a different life. It was but sad life, because we knew that we wouldn't have anybody when we go home. And that's what happened. There was nobody. When I went back home, I knew that my mother, my two brothers, my sister, my aunts, my uncles. I had the two aunts. They survived. The one who was with me, and another one.
And what were their names again?
Regine and Olga was with me, and my uncle's wife, Ila. They were lucky because they were taken to Austria, and over there they didn't kill anybody. They were in camp. They went through hell, but they didn't kill nobody. There was no crematorium or anything like that. And when I went back, I tried to find, I went back to my hometown, Polgar, and there was nobody there. There was a few Jewish survivors, but they didn't want to stay there either. They went up to Budapest, and we stayed there a few weeks. And the people, I had neighbors that we used to call her Nana. She was like a grandma to me, a Gentile woman. She used to come, and my mother used to invite her, Friday night she came in to close the light, and she had dinner there, and many times, they were so nice. She wouldn't even talk to me because she had furniture and things that used to belong to us, and she didn't want I should see it. They took our whole house. They took the roof, the floor, everything up, wherever they can, the furniture, whatever they had. I couldn't find. I find a couple of pictures on the floor, torn up from my family. They took out everything, and somebody told me that this one has your bed, this one has this. All the neighbors, the good neighbors. Yeah.
All right, we'll stop there,
Okay.
and we'll continue.
Did I talk too much?
No, you're doing great. Thank you. Talking about going back to Polgar and what you found there. Did you find the synagogue or the shul?
Everything was in ruins, or they made something else out of it, like restaurants, or there was no shul.
They made a restaurant out of the shul?
Yeah. Dance hall. Yeah, that's what it was.
How long did you stay there?
Not long, a short time, and then we went back. I went back with my aunt and my uncle to Budapest, and didn't stay there. Well, a few months.
Did you go back to their apartment?
Yes, we went back to the apartment, the same apartment. Yeah, where we were before the war. As a matter of fact, they find some clothing and stuff that over there in Budapest, my uncle. And my uncle, he got back much earlier because when he was taken, he ran away. And he came back, and he took his two boys into one of those safe buildings, you know, this Wallenberg building, and they were safe through the war. And my uncle, he had somebody, his boss, his old boss, that he brought some jewelry over to him just before the war, and they dug a ditch and they buried it. And when he came back, he went over to get it, and he said, "This is good because I'm so sick. I don't know how long I live," and he wouldn't know about it. And a week or 2 weeks later, he was dead. So he got back a few of his and his wife's and my aunts and uncles, you know, things.
And so how long did you stay in Budapest then with
Uh,
your aunts?
Well, my husband, that time he wasn't my husband, you know, we knew each other. We used to live 2 doors away from each other.
Tell me about
during the war. And it was no, you know, we didn't go out together or anything. It was bombing, you know, the constant bombing, Budapest, you know.
What was his name? What is his name?
Joe Kramer. And so we used to wait for the, they sounded the alarm, and we went down to the basement, and that's when actually we were waiting already because we never could go out or anything. So that's how we passed the time.
Did you mentioned him earlier in the story?
I don't think I did. I
Joe?
just realized that I didn't. We knew each other, you know, when before the war. And then he used to come and see me when we were already in the ghetto, and I did mention that many times he took off his band. He had the yellow band with the Star of David, and he took chances. He used to bring sometimes some food, or I remember coffee. We never, you know, he brought it over, which came very handy for the whole family. And then when I went back, I wrote to him. As a matter of fact, I sent him postcards when we were going towards Germany as we were walking. And he saved it. When we got back, he still had it. It was all crumpled up.
So you were reunited with him.
So we were reunited, and then he was in his hometown. And when I was in Polgar, in my hometown, he tried to come and see me. He came with a bicycle. You know, that time there was no train or whatever, you know, right after the war. And for some reason he couldn't get through. He had to turn back. So he was in his hometown, and I wrote to him that I'm back, and he asked me to marry him. And I went down with my family, whoever, you know. I had an uncle. He walked from I don't know how many miles from one town to get there, and his sister and me and us and a cousin, we got married the same day. That time there was no, not like you make weddings over here. They had a small calf, and they butchered it, and the whole town got together. Even from other towns they came because there was a little food. And we had 3 weddings in one day.
What was that date?
February 19th.
In what year?
In 1946. We got married. And by March, we were going to leave Hungary because the communists were in there, and we knew the border is going to be closed. So we went into a place where a lot of Jewish people, they wanted to immigrate, they wanted to leave the country, and they gave us different names, like we are Israelis. In case we get caught, we all had different names, and we weren't supposed to speak Hungarian, make believe that we are, and then we left around March, and we arrived in Italy. And that time too we went into the cattle cars, but it was different. It was so different. We were free, and we went into a DP camp. It was called Grugliasco near Torino, and it used to be a mental hospital where we were staying, and it was like 12 couples in one room. We had tiny little space, just the beds, and a little night table. That was our home. And meantime, I was pregnant right away, and we wanted to come to the United States real bad because his mother and an older sister was here already. She came out in 1933, the mother, and the sister 1939. And he had papers, and my sister-in-law had papers to come, but the war broke out, so they got stuck. And they gave us special, they gave me special, the American consul gave me a special visa, you know, because I was pregnant, and I was supposed to stay there, and he was going to leave because he had already from the war that his mother is here, you know. So, but we came together. It was the first boat out of Europe, and this was 1946. But I left out I had the baby just when I was ready to go to the Genova to go on the boat. We had to take a train, and when I got up that morning, I had labor pain, but I didn't say anything because I wanted to get on that boat the worst way, because I figured my baby gonna be American citizen. And we went with the train to this town, Torino. And by then I knew that I have to go into the hospital. So my husband took me into the hospital, and we asked the doctor if I could make it to Genova to get on the boat. And he says, no, the baby is going to be born on the train, and that's going to be very bad. So the next day, he had to go to Genova and tell him that we can't make it, and the baby was born the next day. And we had to go back to the camp, to the DP camp, and a month later, she was just 4 weeks old. That's my Margie. And this is where I get a little bit emotional when I come to my children. Anyway, she came with us on the boat, and we had some problem because she didn't have a visa or anything. You know, she was a baby, we thought, and they kept calling her name, that they thought she's a stowaway, you know. And Joe had to go, and we were sick like dogs. We were so sick on the boat. This was an army transfer boat, and he was with 300 other guys in the cabin. At least they gave me for six women was in one. And I had to wash diapers, and he used to come, and the women had to come out of the bathroom, and he went in, and he helped me wash the diapers, and we didn't have 2 cents to our name and couldn't eat anything. And somebody felt sorry for me, an Italian lady who was with me in the cabin, and she bought me some oranges, and she squeezed it out because I was dizzy with hunger and weakness and all that. And it was very hard to take care of the baby too, because and I was altogether like 19, you know. And I never forget when we got on the boat, he ate spaghetti. You know, we didn't have very good food in the DP camp either. We were starving.
What kind of food would you have there?
Oh, in the DP camp?
Yes.
We had a little, I don't remember. They did give us some meat and mostly vegetables and a piece of bread, but not enough. And I was pregnant, and I didn't even show when I was in the 9 months. And the doctor used to come and visit us, you know, the camp doctor. And he says, you come every day and eat lunch at the hospital, you know, like the patients, because, you know, I wasn't doing so well. Anyway, going back over there, the first day when we were on the boat, my husband says, come on, now you go up, I'll watch the baby, and you go. And it was so delicious, the spaghetti, and I go, and I didn't even know the boat started moving, but I was so sick I couldn't eat. We both got, you know, so seasick that if somebody would have let us down any place, we would have go gladly, because I figured we will not be able to make it. But we did. And after we find out that it hit an iceberg too, it was January, it was very bad. So if we would have waited another month or two, we would have come with a regular passenger boat. But because we were in such hurry, and then we got the army boat. But I wasn't sorry.
So when did you finally arrive in New York?
So we arrived in January 8th, and I remember in the night time we saw the Statue of Liberty. So I took my baby and I looked out and I said, we're going to be free. And it was wonderful. We arrived, and Joe's mother and sister and my uncle, I had 3 uncles here in the United States, and they came out, and a cousin, and words can't tell you how wonderful it felt. And even now, till this day, I am so happy that we came to this country, because I think it's wonderful. Freedom. And we lived with my mother-in-law, which wasn't very easy because she had a tiny little apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, and Joe's older sister lived with her. And with the baby, we had to move in with her. And we never asked for any help, not from the joint. Those days they gave apartments or whatever. We didn't get nothing. We didn't go for anything. And he got a job right away at a bakery, because you know, he had a trade. So he earned money. So 8 months we stayed at my mother-in-law's, and then we got a apartment, which was very hard. After the war, you couldn't get an apartment. We got like a shack, a bungalow, and the rats was like this, big rats. And I was afraid to go to sleep. I never seen in my life a rat. And we stayed there for, I don't remember how long. We struggled here, but we managed.
And do you have any other children besides Margie?
And yes, 6.5 years we waited, and then we had Harriet. 1953 she was born. And they are the best thing that ever happened. My children. See, I told you when it comes to my family, I break down. I have wonderful children. And whatever I went through, I suffered. My family makes up for everything. My grandchildren, loving, warm, my family, my 2 son-in-laws, they are like sons. It's great. Life is great now.
Well, I think we're going to take a break here and meet some of your family, if that's all right.
Fine.
Thank you. Edith, you spoke of your family. Maybe you could introduce us to the people around you.
Yes, first of all, this is my husband, Joe, my daughter, Margie, my other daughter, Harriet. I wish my grandchildren could be here.
What are your grandchildren's names?
Glenn, he's in Arizona, he's 25, and Jennifer, she's 22.
What are their last
That's
names?
Margie's children, and their name is Kramer with an A. My daughter married a Kramer.
Okay.
And Harriet has 2 little ones. Brian is 12, and Michelle is 8, and their name is Bilford.
Now, you've been interviewed for a project before, haven't you? For the Holocaust?
Yes, by my grandchildren. Jennifer interviewed me when she was about 13, and Brian just interviewed me a couple of weeks ago.
All right. And what do you think the importance of those interviews might be? To tell your story?
To me, it's very important because they should never forget that this thing really happened, and I want my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, everybody should know about it, what we went through and what happened to my family and a lot of other families.
Joe, do you have anything that you'd like to say? We heard how you met your wife and proposed through the mail.
I was very happy that when she came back, that she was also she got that she let us know that she find out that we are alive too, that I'm alive too, and it happened that I went for her, and I had a little problems to go there. I had to come back, but finally we met, and I asked her hand, and we got married. It was very nice. And then we had a family. We came out to this country, and we had a nice family, and thank God everything is beautiful now here.
Does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Harriet?
I just feel very, very fortunate to have a wonderful family. I think what my father just said about the family is the most important, and we're very fortunate in that we love each other and are very close. Unfortunately, there are many members of my family that I was never able to meet or see. But I think we all have to look at the positive side and think of all the things that we have and be grateful for.
I was going to say also that we are very, very lucky to have 2 incredible.
It's the best.
And my children, the way they are, my parents, it's just unbelievable.
Edith, we're going to look at some pictures in a minute, but since it's your tape, is there one thing you'd like to close with? One last thought.
Like I said, that I am grateful to God every day of my life that I survived just for wonderful children and my husband and my grandchildren, and that's about all.
We are very lucky.
We are very, very lucky, very fortunate.
A lot of people really could have the same kind of a life what we had. A lot of Jewish people could have the same life what we had, and they couldn't have it. Like my brother, he was the same way than me, and he just didn't come back from there. We never know where he was, and thank God for it this way. So that's why I said we are very lucky that we went through a lot, but we are lucky that we live a beautiful life now.
Thank you.
These are my grandparents on my father's side. On the left side is my grandmother. Her name was Regina Fried, her maiden name. And my grandfather, Jacob Sturk.
And do you know where this picture was taken?
And the picture was taken in a town called Kotai, Hungary. But I don't know when
And how did
it
you
was taken.
and how did you come to acquire this picture?
When I came out to the United States, I seen it by my uncle. And a few years ago, he's 97 years old now, and he felt he's not going to live long, and he wanted to give it to me. And that's how I got it.
Thank you.
This is my grandparents from my mother's side, the whole family. The left side is my grandmother,
Is this the front row you're talking about?
the bottom row. My grandmother is on the left side,
What is her name?
and her name was Eugenia Simonovich. And my grandfather, his name was Adolf Kraus,
And which one is he?
in the right side,
In the front
in
row?
the bottom.
Okay.
And in the bottom row, it's two of my uncles when they were young boys. One is Peter, and the other one was Shandor.
Which is Peter?
Peter is on my right, and Shandor is on the left, in the bottom row.
And what are their last names?
Kraus.
Okay. And now if we can start with the back row from the left.
From the left, that's a cousin. My grandmother was bringing up a cousin. His name was Lajos Simonovich. He lost his parents, and my grandmother raised him as her own. And next to him is my uncle Deje
What is his
He-
last name?
Kraus. He was next to the oldest. My mother was the oldest. And next to that is my mother. She was about 18 years old.
And what is her name?
Her name was Margit. And next to her is my aunt Regine, also Kraus. And then next to her is my aunt Olga. She was the one who was in the concentration camp with me.
And her last name was Kraus as
And
well?
Kraus, yeah. And next to her is my uncle Bela Kraus.
And what year was this picture taken? Do you know?
I imagine my mother was born in 1903, and she was about 18, so it's about 31,
1921?
18, and I think she was 21. No, how old is?
If she was 19.
She was 19, so, and she was born in 1903.
Okay, so it's
19 and 3, that's 22.
okay. And where was this picture
1922,
taken?
Polgar,
In Hungary?
my hometown, yeah, in Hungary.
And how did you come upon this picture?
This was a great aunt, my grandmother's sister, who lived in the Bronx, New York. And I went to visit her, and she had a little picture in her wallet. And we had it blown up. to make a big one. It was all torn. It's a very old picture.
Thank you.
This is my twin brother and sister. It was taken about 1939. They were, I think, 6 years old.
What are their names?
Her name is Eva, and his name is Paul
Their last name was,
Sturck.
and how did you come upon this picture?
This also, it was given to me in Israel. I had an aunt. She had also a little picture, and she gave it to me, and we made it up.
Okay. Did you say where it was taken? Where was it taken?
Around 1939.
In Polgar?
Polgar. It was a state fair, and they took, one of those fast shots, and it wasn't very good in the first place, but I'm glad I have it.
Thank you.
This is me, Edith Kramer, on the left side, and my husband Joe Kramer. It was taken in April 1945.
Where
The
was it?
picture was taken in Torino, Italy.
Thank you.
This is my family, my wonderful family. In the bottom, at the left side, is my granddaughter Jennifer Kramer, and next to it, it's me, Edith Kramer, and then my little granddaughter Michelle Bilford, and my husband Joe Kramer, my younger daughter Harriet Bilford, and my younger grandson Brian Bilford. And the top, the left, is my grandson Glenn Kramer, then my son-in-law Jerry Kramer, my daughter Margie Kramer, then my other son-in-law Dave Bilford. And it was taken in 1991 in Woodland Hills, my daughter Margie's backyard.
Thank you.